Congratulations, Mr. Khan.
Well, I would love to watch Nepali films as well. I think that, cinema and movies is what I love. But one thing that I've always found about myself, which I've always regretted, is that I don't end up watching films. And including Hindi films, including English films. I don't watch films. As compared to what I should be, because this is my field. I should be watching a lot more films, but somehow, from childhood, I was a reader. I read a lot. I love reading. I love books. So what happens is, the moment I'm with myself and I'm in free time with myself, I move towards a book. I don't move towards a film. It's not that I don't like watching films. I love watching films. But somehow, I find that I read a lot more than I watch films. And that's how I am. That's my interest. So I would love to watch Nepali films and certainly, get the exposure of what kind of films are being made here. I would like to do that, yeah.
Do you want to play Nepali film?
Do I want to act in Nepali?
If you get offered.
Absolutely. I feel that, well, as long as I'm comfortable with the language, if it's a Nepali film in which I have to speak Nepalese, which I'm not sure, I don't know that I'll be able to do that. Because for an actor, language becomes very important. If you're not comfortable with the language, if you don't have a command over the language, you won't be able to perform well. So I'm happy to do a film anywhere in the world. It can be from Africa, it can be from India, it can be from Nepal, it can be from, anywhere in the world. That's not important. Which part of the world the story is from is not of criteria. What is important is that does it touch me? Does that story touch my heart? If it does, then I want to be a part of it. It doesn't matter which part of the world it's from. Because for me, the world is one place. I don't see it as different countries. We're all human beings. And if the story touches me as a human being, then I want to be a part of it. And as long as I know the language. That's the only criteria.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Thank you very much for this event. Thank you for all coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Nepal, and I'm really happy to be part of this effort to work against malnutrition, and it gives me great joy. It's a great honor for me to be selected as a brand ambassador for the region of South Asia, and it's a responsibility that I look forward to. It's a responsibility that I welcome, and I hope that I'm able to contribute to this in a significant way. This is an issue which, when it was brought to my notice, this issue of malnutrition, when it was brought to my notice, I realized how serious it is and what ramifications it can have. And this began for me about 5 years ago. About 5 years ago, roughly, I'm not very good with times, it may be 6 years. But about 5 years ago, a group of members of parliament in India came to meet me. They were from different political parties. And they came to meet me and said that we've come to request you to be our brand ambassador to communicate about malnutrition in India. I was very impressed in that meeting. At first I was a little suspicious, but then as the meeting went on, I realized that they were all very sincere. There were people, there were MPs from BJP, Congress, NCP, different political parties. They were all come together. And we don't often see different political parties. Normally we see them fighting and disagreeing. But here was an issue on which all of them were together. And they had come together to request me to try and take this issue forward and, spread information in our country about this issue, and that is how this journey started for me. When they mentioned to me that around 48% of children in India are malnourished, that's almost 1 in every second child. It's about half our population roughly. Very, very alarming figures, and very, something that's of great concern, which means that half our children will grow up undernourished. They will not come to their full potential physically, mentally, and perhaps emotionally. And that's a very sad reality, and that is because of lack of nourishment in the first 2 years. As Karen was mentioning, it is the first 2 years, that window, the first 1,000 days actually, from the time that the child is conceived in the mother's womb till the child is 2 years old, the first 1,000 days. And in that period, if we don't intervene and make sure the child gets proper nutrition, then that window closes, and it is very difficult then to help the child thereafter. The damage, so to speak, would have been done by then. Now, this is a very alarming thing, and something that is something that, for various reasons. I mean, even if you look at it from a national point of view, from a social point of view, you don't want half your population dependent on the other half, or not contributing, or not productive enough to your society, to your nation. But that's a different reason. I think even on a human level, just on a human level, the fact of the matter is that there are so many children who are underprivileged, who need our help and support. And just on a human level, I think we ought to at least make sure that they have the proper nutrition for the first 2 years. At the very least, we should try and do that, just on a human level. And that is how I got involved in this fight against malnutrition. And then, along with the MPs, I went and met the Prime Minister, requested him to allocate some funds for this campaign, which was essentially information campaign where we tell people about malnutrition. But see, malnutrition, unfortunately, is not seen. Visually, you don't come to know whether the child is malnourished or not. He seems fine, But when a child is slow, a child is perhaps not showing interest in many things around him, these are signs of malnutrition. Not able to catch up in school with the rest of the class, these are signs of malnutrition. These are symptoms of malnutrition. So it's not obvious visually that a child is malnourished. And that's where the danger lies, because it's a silent, it's an unseen enemy, so to speak. And so it's that much more important for us to be aware of what the steps are. And I'll quickly go through the first 4 steps. The media is here, and that's why I'm going into details. I'm hoping that you would spread this information across everyone here in Nepal and everywhere. And that is that from the time that the woman conceives and has a baby, conceives and has a baby in her womb, from that time onwards, the nutrition of the mother is extremely important. Her nutrition needs to go up appropriately. She's now feeding not only for herself, but for the baby that's growing inside her. She needs rest as well, so that she is able to carry her child well and give the child everything that it needs. Now, this responsibility of nutrition and rest is not only with the mother, it is also with the father, it is also with the other family members who are there around her. They should all make sure that she eats first. You see, in India and in many parts of South Asia, we have this custom where the woman eats last. The woman eats last, often she eats the least. Whatever is left over is given to her. And these are realities which are social realities. So we have to realize that we have to, come out of this thinking. When a woman is pregnant, she has to be the center, of our attention. She has to be the center of, there is a miracle happening over there. And she has to be the center of our attention and love. So that is the first thing. When the moment the woman gets pregnant, her nutrition has to go up, her rest has to go up. Responsibility lies with the entire family. Then when the baby is born, the first 2 days, the mother's milk is very...
for the period of up to 2 years, from 6 months to 2 years, the baby should get mother's milk and nutritious food, starting nutritious food for the baby for the first 2 years. Now, if we do these 4 basic steps, then we can make sure that our children are not malnourished. I'm aware that there are a lot of people who are very, very underprivileged, very poor economically, from a very backward part of society, and for them, when we tell them these things, it might not make sense to them. I mean, they don't have enough to feed themselves. So I know that in India, the government of India has, in its program, assured a woman with extra nutrition, along with supplements like, iron and folic acid medication. But apart from that, just nutrition, extra nutrition. So when a woman gets pregnant, she goes to the Anganwadi and registers herself as a potential mother. And then that help from the government of India begins for that lady. This is the kind of, this was our communication essentially in our campaign, which we worked on with UNICEF and with the Ministry of Women and Child Development back home in India. And these are the 4 basic things that we need to do, and reach out to women who are not in a position to follow these 4 steps, and reach out and help them to follow these 4 steps. So whether it's, government agencies that need to do what they need to do, UNICEF is of course working, but all of us need to be aware of that. I wasn't aware of this myself, as an individual living in a city like Mumbai, I didn't know of these 4 steps until I spoke to the people who are dealing in this issue. So I think that this is a battle which is against malnutrition, which is an extremely important battle, which all of us need to be a part of. And I think it just promises our children, our future generation, the potential to a better life. And that's the least I think that we can do for them. So it gives me great joy to be part of this struggle, and I will do everything that I can to make sure that our children have the rights that they deserve. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aami, for stressing on the importance of nutrition in the first initial days of human life.
Few places in India also where there is a lot of poverty, and when I went yesterday, two, 3 things hit me. One is, the way the women were committed to doing what they were doing, the volunteers. And I really want to congratulate all the volunteers working here in Nepal and in other parts of South Asia for the huge commitment that they are showing in this work. And I think that as a society, we really need to value them more. So I think wherever possible, if governments can make sure that they get compensated in some way. A number of women told me that they would need bicycles, they need mosquito nets, and don't have some basic resources, which I think if we should try and get through to them. But importantly, what I wanted to say is that as I was in the car and I was going to these places, it occurred to me that it's just a matter of chance that I was born in a city, in a household which was economically comfortable. Just a matter of chance. I could very well have been born in a village where there is abject poverty. And when I met those people, I really felt that there's absolutely no difference between them and me. And it's a matter of chance that I was born here and not in a village where there was a lot of poverty, where I would not perhaps have got the nutrition that I got. And it felt very unfair, it felt very uncomfortable to me. I didn't know how to deal with that reality, this huge inequality that exists. And I don't know how soon we can address this issue of inequality across the world, but at the very least, we can try and make sure that we do the basics right. We try and reach out to these people to make sure simple things like, that no child should be malnourished. Now, this is a simple thing we can do. We perhaps can't turn the whole issue around on its head, but we can start by making sure that the children who are especially in underprivileged areas of our region should get this basic nourishment, so this is something that I just wanted to say. I'm sorry I interrupted you in the middle.
Not a Mr. Arjun Karki from the Ministry of Urban Development, Mr. Dhanbadur Tamang from the Ministry of Women, Children and Social Welfare, Mr. Vishwa Prakash Pandit from the Ministry of Education, and Mr. Sharada Prasad Trital from the National Planning Commission. So please come on stage and be ready to reveal the mnemonic on the right side. Okay. Thank you so much. Can you just say a few words, maybe? Just a few words.
Good morning, everyone. I think welcome Mr. Aami Khan to Nepal. I think he has covered most things here. I think it's a great opportunity for me. Thank you, UNICEF, for having me here. And I think it's very important that all of us, do this together. I don't think it's just because he comes here and it's an event and, like me being an ambassador and talking here, I think it's a responsibility all of us should take, and it's happening. All of us are going to become a father, a mother someday. So it's our responsibility to take care of our child, and it starts, like he said, from the day the child is conceived to the 2 years period that we have. So it's very, very important we start from day one onwards. And I would like to wish everybody involved with this campaign all the very best. I think this is day one. We've got another 999 days. We'll do a preview every 6 months, every 3 months, as to see what kind of progress that we have made. And hopefully, I think